Hi guys, so this is a tutorial on our next mini project on medicines. So what are medicines? So this is our next mini project as part of our larger project on the human body and what it means to be alive. So now that we've finished reviewing our understanding that animals with skeletons have muscles, that these muscles are attached to bones, and that they often work in pairs and help us move and do things. A key idea in this review was that as we have some muscles that work in pairs, that these are opposing muscles. So now that we've finished reviewing our understanding on this, we've moved on to, as I was saying, finding out and explaining the roles of drugs as medicine. So this is our next mini project. So guys, this question here is really key to this mini project. What are drugs? So this is something that we discussed in session. We talked about and considered what drugs actually are. And what we concluded was that drugs alter. What this means, alter means is change. So drugs alter. They change the way our bodies work. So one of the things you guys mentioned was that they can change how we may feel and how we may act. So that was perfect. Because again, yes, as drugs alter, they change the way our bodies work, they would indeed make us feel or act differently. We then looked at what was in display to us on screen. So what these 2 cups of liquid actually are. So what do these cups contain? Let's see, let's think and wonder. Excellent. So as you guys identified, what we have here is a cup of tea. So you notice the mint leaves here on the saucer and a cup of coffee. So a cup of coffee, and there, as we noticed, with some coffee beans there on the saucer. And did you know, guys, that they actually contain drugs? So again, going back to the idea, what are drugs? Drugs are something that affect how our body works. So as you guys identified, we may feel differently, or we may act differently. So it's actually caffeine. Caffeine is a drug, and that's what is found in coffee. So as we talked about, caffeine is also something that is found in things like chocolate. And what it does really is it raises our heartbeat, which keeps us awake. So when we were looking at how the heart works, we did our heartbeat experiment. So we measured our heartbeat. What we found was that when we're resting, when we're sleeping, our heartbeat goes down. So sleeping, resting, that's associated with a low heart rate. But because caffeine raises our heart rate, it's faster. So that's what keeps us stimulated, keeps us awake. So what caffeine really does is it stimulates the body, as we talked about. So one of the things we identified that we recognized while we were talking about caffeine as a drug was that drugs are not necessarily harmful. So drugs are a substance that are found in different things, and though they can be harmful, they are not necessarily so. Drugs are simply a substance that change the way the body works, so they affect the body, and a lot depends on how they are used. So that was something that we'll look at in this tutorial, and something that we discussed in the session, is a lot depends on how drugs are used, because again, they do affect the body and change the way that it works. So we have to be quite careful in the way that we use them. So yes, as we discussed in session, guys, medicines are actually drugs that make our bodies better when we are sick. So we looked at types of medicines, that they can be in liquid form, like cough and cold syrup, powder form, and like you guys gave an example of ORS that can be mixed in water. We have tablets like painkillers, cream that we apply to our skin, inhalers, and injections. So these are all different types, different forms of medicine that help us feel better when we're not well. So I was particularly impressed with all the various examples of medicines that you guys gave. So good going there, guys. Excellent. Keep it up. So one of the things that we looked at was that medicines can be harmful if they're not taken properly. So if you take too much of them, you take the wrong medicine, So again, they do affect how the body works, and there are certain drugs that if you take them too often can become addictive. So what this means is that you start needing them. Your body starts feeling that it needs them to stay alive. So as part of this discussion that drugs can be harmful, and we need to be careful as to how we use medicines, we considered why we should keep medicine stored out of reach and sight every time. So why is it that we would put them on a higher shelf, we would keep them in a cupboard and not leave them lying around? And so yes, guys, as you suggested, excellent. We need to keep them out of the reach of children, for example, someone who may not know what they are but may take them by mistake. So we also watched a safety video on this. And you guys really understood and shared your ideas on how medicines can and should be used safely. So one of the key things you guys identified was that children should never take medicines without the guidance of an adult. So a key idea here was to use medicine safely, because if we take too much medicine, we can become unwell, and that medicine labels have instructions about how much medicine to take and how often to. Also considered different types of medicines again. But yes, as with regards to our discussion on medicine safety, we looked closely at medicine labels and instructions. So this was one of the examples we considered. This is an example of an antihistamine. We regarded that this is a medication for allergies, just as in the medicine safety video we watched. So a antihistamine was actually featured in that. And we looked at what the safety label actually contains. What sort of information would a safety label and a medicine instruction label have? So we'll talk about dosage, how much to take, and any side effects, any warnings, who needs to be careful when taking this medication, and what it is for. So the purpose of a instruction label on a medicine. So now you guys get to pretend that you are a pharmacist and that you've got a letter from a doctor, and it's about a drug that you have to make up. It's a medicine for a child with a very sore ear. So what we'd like to do is write instructions on the label of this bottle about how the child's mom or dad must give them this medicine. So remember the key points to add to this. So looking back on our example label, remember to add the following information. So what is this medicine for? And the rules around the medicine. So what is dosage? What is its dosage? How much should be taken, and how often? And how should it be administered? Should it be put into the ear with a dropper, or should it be taken orally? Is it a syrup? Is there anyone that shouldn't take this medication, or an age range? And what other things can be done to help the child with the sore ear? So maybe they could rest and seek the advice of a doctor if it gets worse, that kind of thing. So do take a look at examples of medicine labels that you might have around the house to help you with this. And you'll find this task on our Google Classroom, our project classroom, the use of medicines. And you can include your label here in the Google Doc, or you can draw it on paper and take a picture of it, which you can insert here or send into, again, our Google Classroom. So guys, this is an example that I've already had in from you guys, and perfect. If you see, guys, there's indications. So what this medication is for, its dosage, how to administer it, and warnings. It also talks about side effects and what can go wrong if you take too much. So it also mentions for external use only. So that means pouring it into the ear, and that it's a skin ear ointment. So what that means, guys, it's a liquid that's applied to the ear and it's external, not internal, not to be swallowed. So excellent. All the relevant information is contained here, as we talked about. So from our example label, dosage, warnings, and what it's for, as well as warnings are given in this label here. And your other activity here, guys, is to find a medicine around the home that you have. Note down what it's called, what it's for, and what is its dosage. How much do you take and how often? What is its expiry date? side effects noted on the medicine label. So guys, you'll get this information from the packaging, from the actual container, the medicine on the instructions label, even on the box. So a lot of the times you find there's a leaflet inside boxes of medicine. So this is where you'll find that information on the actual bottle itself, on the packaging, or inside the packaging. And warnings. What are the warnings, if any? So usually you'll find warnings on medication telling you not to take too much. What happens if you get certain what you're supposed to do if you experience certain effects. So guys, do find an example of a medicine around the house and look for this information. So I hope you enjoyed